I am Bethany Warnches, real estate agent with Addison Jones, and you are watching Tuesday Talks with Bethany, where I answer real estate FAQs. Today, I am going to continue a series for buyers, and that is staying focused on finding the one. So this week, I am going to talk about what buyers should consider as they are going through houses and looking at houses, and how it's not just about does it look pretty or is the price right and it seems lower and it seems like a good deal, but to pay attention to some of the other factors that influence your decision, to kind of weed through just what's on the surface and get down to what's really important to help you make a wise decision about finding the one. So first of all, I want to talk about fixer-upper versus move-in ready. And it's likely something that you are going to run into and likely something that you are going to consider. So when we think about fixer-upper versus move-in ready, we want to talk about money, we want to talk about time, and we want to talk about skill set. So first of all, let's talk about money. As a buyer, you budgeted for your down payment, you budgeted for your closing costs, and if you want to know more about what's involved in the costs in buying a home, feel free to go back and watch my video that I did on the cost of buying. So you budgeted for those things. But then I want to ask you, did you create a renovation budget as well? Did you maybe set aside $500 for some painting? Or did you set aside $10,000 to redo a kitchen or a bathroom or something like that? So you really need to think about, did I budget to be able to renovate? Then you got to think about time. Do you personally have the time to do these projects? Is it going to fit in well with your lifestyle, or is it going to create a lot of stress and be a hassle and hard to get it done? Or if you are going to hire out the work, does the contractor have time? How far is the contractor booked out? How long is it going to take them to complete the project once they do get in? So it's being realistic on the time frame of getting the projects done. Last of all is skill set. You need to ask yourself, are you a handy person who can do a lot of this yourself? Or do you know a handy person like your handy dad or your handy friend or your handy uncle who's going to come help you out and do these projects? Or are you going to have to hire out all the work, and is it going to get very expensive because you're hiring contractor after contractor after contractor? So think about, do you have the skill set to do this, or are you going to have to be paying for it, which comes back again to budget. I especially want first-time home buyers to consider fixer-upper versus move-in ready when you are moving in, because you have to think about how there are known costs and there are unknown costs. So now as a first-time home buyer, part of home ownership is going to be home maintenance and planning for the unknowns. So you don't want to go into a house and think, oh, the bathroom's outdated, I'm going to stick $7,000 into the bathroom, update it, it'll be great. But now my furnace went out and I don't have the money to pay for my furnace. So you want to budget for the knowns, like the bathroom renovation, but you also want to budget for the unknowns so you're ready if something like that comes and hits you. So especially as a first-time home buyer, you need to budget for the unknowns and home maintenance versus just the knowns that you see on the surface. This leads very nicely into the next thing I want to talk about, which is, does a home need a major upgrade in the next couple of years? So as a home buyer, you may go into a house and think, wow, this house is gorgeous, I love it. But maybe the roof is 30 years old and it's going to need to get replaced in the next year or two. So do you get the house and then also have a budget to replace that roof in a year or two? So it's taking that into consideration. Same thing, the furnace is 40 years old and it could die any day. Are you ready for that? All of the windows in the house are original. Are you okay with that? Or all the electrical is old. So when you move in as a buyer, are you going to upgrade that? Are you budgeting for that if you do want to make that upgrade? So just paying attention to not just the pretty things that you see when you go through a house, but paying attention to the bones and the systems and how old they are. And if you are going to have to budget to replace them soon, and those are the knowns. And again, there are unknowns as well. So being smart about that. I also want to talk about low maintenance home versus high maintenance home. So a good example of this would be wood siding exterior. Do you want to be repainting your home and taking care of chipping, peeling paint? Or do you want a house that has vinyl siding on it? So, do you have the time? Do you want the hassle? So it's just something to consider when buying. And then last of all, this one is kind of silly, but it's specific to Wisconsin. And I want you to think about Wisconsin in the wintertime. Especially if you are a first-time home buyer that is coming from an apartment where, you get to park in underground parking and park inside. And now you're going to take on a house. So are you going to be in a garage or not? Are you going to have to scrape every day? Or are you going to have to haul your groceries inside from outside, whether you have a detached or attached garage? Or maybe before, like I said, you parked inside at your apartment, you didn't have to do any snow blowing or anything like that. So are you ready to live on the corner lot where you're going to be responsible for shoveling? Or are you going to have a really long driveway that you need to plow? So it's just thinking about yourself and how you function in a Wisconsin winter, and if you're going to be okay with what you're buying. Maybe you find a house with a one-car garage that's kind of falling down and is used more as a shed, and you're going to have to park outside. Are you going to be okay with that in the middle of Wisconsin winter? So just a Wisconsin question for you. So as a buyer, I hope this really helps you kind of dig into the nitty-gritty and keeps you from just thinking about shiny objects or good-looking prices, and helps you really dive deeper. Are you really going to be okay with a fixer-upper? Do you have the money? Do you have the time? And do you have the skill set to do it all? Are there any major upgrades that you are going to need to budget for when you buy a home? Are you planning for all the knowns and all the unknowns and the home maintenance? Are you wanting to have a house that's more low maintenance or more high maintenance? And then thinking about yourself in a Wisconsin winter and what that is going to look like for you in your new home. So I hope this was helpful to you. I am going to continue this series into one more video because there's just so much to cover. So I will be doing one more video next week on helping you as a buyer stay focused and find the one.